What is up, everyone? Hello, hello. This is not Eric. This is
I've got the hair to prove it. It was shaved last year.
He's grown his hair out a little bit now.
I actually just got a haircut. I could have come on here with like.
You had like you had like the fro the first year, I remember.
Yeah, I mean it just, especially like over the last couple of years, like it just kind
of grew out. So guys, this is Nephlock, Riley or Nephlock. You may know him as the designer of sets such as GMK Metropolis, GMK Kaiju, as well as being a collaborator on a lot of awesome sets. The most recent one, oh man, I just went completely blank on it. Don't tell me. Noir, GMK Noir. And he also is the creative director for Novel Keys. So we're going to be getting into it tonight.
Hello.
So welcome,
you nerds.
Welcome to the stream, man.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Third year in a row.
Hell yeah.
It's like my favorite July tradition. July is full of 2 holidays here in Utah. So
there you go, man. So quick shout out to our awesome sponsors and partners, which we could not do this without them, as well as you, the viewers. So you can head on over to OmniType, Project Keyboards, Canon Keys, Kinetic Labs, Zap Cables, Type B, Smith & Rune, 3D Keys. Those last 4 are some awesome partners of ours. Go check out those websites. They've got a lot of stuff that's pretty darn cool that you can check out right now. A lot of them have in stock. We'll be talking about in stock tonight. We'll be getting into the nitty gritty of the in stock world that we hope to all be in. But first and foremost, just a quick anecdote. Eric just had some personal things come up that he needed to deal with, so he is taking a night off tonight. But anyway, fast forward. I'm ready for some beige sets. The king of making colorful sets and not even liking colorful sets.
I think we dubbed it potato personality sets last night.
Exactly. So top 4 favorite switches, though, before we get to key sets.
Shit, you're blowing me up. Released switches, right?
Yes.
They have to be, okay. Well, this
yeah,
is really
Mr. Works at Novel Keys, has all the inside information.
Retool Blacks. Oh my god.
It's almost like Wax Poetic knows you.
Is he in there? Yeah, he does. Retool Blacks, Holy Pandas, MX Xylants, and Creams.
Boom. There it is.
It also helps that I think since last year I've only built like 2 keyboards.
Well, not a lot of keyboards have even been shipped, sadly.
Well, I guess I should clarify. Built like, because I just realized like I've built a lot more, but they're for Novel Keys.
Yeah,
and
built
for Novel Keys boards. But like boards that it's kind of this weird. Sorry, super tangent. It's this weird like separation where I'm still kind of merging like a hobby keyboard Riley with like work keyboard Riley.
Professional keyboard.
Yeah, I mean it's all basically the same thing, but sometimes there is this like weird little mental gymnastics where I'm like, oh, I haven't had anything shipped to me, but then I've also had a lot of stuff shipped to me.
Yeah. So. I got Creams on the board. I'm using right now the OG,
They still smell, right?
Probably. If I got down in there, maybe. No, they're from like the pre-orders from like 2018.
Oh, awesome.
Like the original runs. But yeah, top 4 favorite keyboards.
Top 4 favorite keyboards are gonna be the NK65, the NK65, the NK65, and then the NK87. So
there it is.
I'm just kidding. Lang talked about it. The Exit, it's right here. It's still one of my favorite boards. The Crown, I've shown it a couple times, still one of my favorites. S7 Elephant, and just because M65A.
There it is.
Been using that a lot lately.
Wait,
so.
Are you talking about this Crown?
No, I'm talking about Where is it?
Oh, is that the one? Yeah, I think you showed it off.
Yeah. It's the one.
There's multiple crowns floating around.
I know. It's spelled with a. There you go. Wax poetic in chat. Got it.
Yeah, the croon. The croon.
And that's just the initials of myself and the 3 other buddies that made it. So
yeah,
Wax Poetic, as you probably guess, is the W in there. N is for Nephlock. R is for Regalicious, who's at a haircut with his kids right now. And K is for Kilgara, who is, I think he's still around, but he's off gallivanting in Europe on some massive math. Dude's going to work for NASA in like 6 months.
Hell yeah.
Probably. Don't quote me. Or maybe...
You heard it here.
I was about to say Bezos, but I don't like Bezos. So maybe we'll go for Virgin.
Well, Novel Keys, thank you for the tier 1 sub. We need to get Novel Keys on here. It's been far too almost, it'll be like 2 years in November. So Mike, I'll reach out to you sometime. But no, top 4 favorite key sets. They cannot be sets that you have. I don't need to say that because they're not going to be, right?
The one year that you would be wrong on that.
Ooh. Oh, are you going to pick Noir? Maybe.
I am now. I wasn't really considering it. But yeah.
Well, then let's say shipped key sets.
Okay. You would still be wrong. I've got a couple sitting in front of me that have been shipped to me.
There you go.
But nobody else has seen them. The first one is called Stone, and it's right here. And then number 2 is going to be called Sand, and it's right here. And then I'll probably go with boring sets, and I'll just pick white on black, classic retro.
There it is.
Just for consistency.
Yeah,
they're so shiny. I really should just buy like 20 of those sets because they shine up in like a month because that's what I use.
I like it. Consistency is key. And then top 4 favorite foods.
Indian food lately has really been like
slapping.
Jumping. Like COVID kind of took me for a loop because everybody's going down, they're at home. And my consistent answers of tomato soup and grilled cheese and bread and all of that, it was just kind of like, yes. And now, no. I'm over it. Give me Indian food, give me Italian, give me a nice burger. I've been doing a lot of Mexican food, big time Mexican food. So I'm going to go with some mole, Indian food, like a good medium rare burger. Mm-hmm. Like actually medium rare.
Yeah.
And I got it the other day. It was delicious. Country fried chicken from Texas Roadhouse with like creamy gravy and mashed potatoes. Mm-hmm. Like just really load my stomach up.
I was about to say those are great meals if you want to not do anything for the rest of the day.
Yeah, if you eat one meal and want to just coast for like 3 days.
Well, very well. So, guys, again, this is Nephlock, or Riley. He is the creative director at Novel Keys. He is the designer of GMK Metropolis 1 and 2, in case people... it could be worth noting. As well as GMK Kaiju, and he collaborated... You'll have to go through the list of the sets that you've collaborated on, just because I'm sure that list is incredibly long.
I mean, it could be longer. Let's see. Noir, probably still my favorite novelties to date.
And that's coming from someone who made Metropolis. I
like him more than Metropolis novelties, if I'm being honest. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's just that I've been looking at Metropolis a lot.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to see Noir in person yet.
Yeah.
Nobody has, because it hasn't happened yet.
Because GMK.
Yeah. We can talk about that.
Oh, we'll dive in.
Greg Gang. Those were fun novelties. Worked on a couple more for things that are unreleased. I don't know. Some of them are kind of old. I don't know if like the Keyset just kind of died and didn't make it. A somewhat divisive key set that was actually really fun for me was SA Tattooing.
Mm,
Those were really fun novelties.
yeah. Oh, you
Um,
did the novelties on those?
I, I did the whole thing. That was
Oh
well, that
wow,
was.
there you go. Well,
We can talk about the process on
we'll
that
talk
a
about
little
that.
bit. But
Yeah, because that's a whole nother monster. Because now you're
that
having
was a
to.
fun set.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
let's you've been on 3 times now, so let's talk about you've done how you got in real quick, just the short version, the spark notes of how you got in the hobby and how you got into keyset design.
Chewy hitting me with the short version. You know I don't do short version. um, I got into keyboards. So for those that don't know, I am a designer, was a designer, currently a designer, which means things that are visually appealing is kind of my jam.
Mm-hmm.
If I can make something customized visually, great, you know. Which is funny because I talk about that and then I use like boring sets and my wallpaper on my computer just doesn't change and it's pretty simple. Um, somewhat ironic. Sorry, Cliff Notes. If I can change something, great.
You can go in as much as you want, man. I'm just messing with you.
And I was just browsing around. I saw like a fun looking keyboard. I'm like, oh, what's this? And then I went onto the Reddit, and you do the thing where you lurk for a while, and you're just like, oh, these are cool. And this was a while ago, so it's not like now where it's key sets are popping off, right? It's oh, this looks really cool, and it's like Triumph Adler, it's
Yeah.
just a keyboard that's like white and blue, on a silver. So the ability to do that, and I fell in love with like early SA sets,
Mm-hmm.
but they were always like so pricey.
Yeah.
And this is baby Riley talking about keyboards. Like now you're like, oh, SA, sure, whoa, okay, I'll get this, I get this.
Yeah.
But the thought of spending more on keycaps than I had ever spent on just the keyboard was rough.
Insane.
But everybody dips their toes in, and now we're here. Now
Yep.
it's like it is my job to be in this industry and helping solve some of the problems that I was both plagued by early on and plagued by currently, and never thought I'd be here.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
the fates would have it, and I am, and it's great.
I'm excited to go back and watch. I'm gonna watch our first interview together.
Oh God.
With the one now, because it's like everything's different. Mechs on Deck was 4 months old at that point.
Well, the room's a little different. It's the same room. It was blue. It's green now. So
Hey, that was the first thing I noticed. I was like, you painted. There you go. But I'm excited because Mechs on Deck obviously has been around, and Metropolis was running for the first time back then. Now we've done Metropolis 2. So I guess talk about how was doing round 2 of something. We don't popular. It's kind of popular now for round 2 sets to go off. And how did you go about maybe tweaking it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean so everybody kept asking like, when's Metro round 2? Like, and I think when I was on here the first time, Metro just finished.
Yeah.
And Metro the first time like blew my mind. I don't think anybody was really expecting it to do what it did, and then it did it. There were a lot of decisions that I made in round 1 that were essentially not hedging my bet, but I'll do this because I don't think we'll make the numbers here, or do this. A big one was we didn't really have a 40s kit.
Yeah.
Because I looked at other sets that ran, and it's like, oh, cool. DMG was. I can't remember where DMG was. I think it was around the same time or like the month before. And I looked at the performance on a 40s kit for that, and it's like, oh, it sold 16.
Yeah. I mean, DMG, like, strangely, DMG had to be bought out.
Yeah,
it had to be bought out to reach.
A lot of those early sets that are now like, oh, I'll give you my firstborn child for a sealed set, they don't realize that they were bought out.
Yeah.
That
like
part of it,
they did
and we can
poorly.
talk about it later, is like the the rarity of it. You know, do you actually like it because of what it is, or do you actually like it because, you know, there were only 100 of them and you're that guy that has it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I looked at the 40s kit on Metro for round one, and it sold 16 and got bought out. And to me, it's like, well, okay, well then why do it?
Yeah.
You know, someone's going to have to bear the burden of the buyout, whether it's Mike or, you know, is it me? Like, that was a question when I was designing the kits, because I wasn't sure. I had never done it before, so I didn't know where that had to happen. You know, the big one was we had the Midnight kit as like an add-on kit, like a modifier replacement. And the big thing there was that you have to buy the base kit, which was $135, and then the add-on kit, which I think was like 70 or something like that.
Was...
So you're $200+ out the gate,
and that was
like the monochrome version of it.
Yeah, and that was pretty uncommon at the time too. Like, you didn't see a whole lot of, hey, come buy an entire set of modifiers. At least at the time, it was. I even remember looking at me like, that's crazy. Why would anyone?
Well, I mean,
and then I saw it in person. I was like, oh shit, okay.
not many people wanted to. You know, if you look at the numbers on it, like, it was pretty. Not that I don't think it needed to be bought out, but there weren't that many for the totals in comparison, because it was such a big ask. You're essentially asking someone to say, or to pay up like 3/4 of the price of another kit just to like modify the kit you already bought, and you can still only put it on one board, you know?
Yeah.
So
186 Midnight sold. So there it is. Not a whole lot, just for round one.
Dude found the numbers. Yeah. I mean, it's like, and then we bought some extras, but so in terms of going from an R1 to an R2, knowing what it did in R1, and then looking at the current numbers for keycaps and MOQs and things like that, it was somewhat of a no-brainer. Like, that's too prohibitive. There's been too many sets that have also run dual base kits that have performed well with both of those base kits.
Yeah.
You know, it would stand to right that Metro would do just as well. So the decision was to put that in a secondary base kit. I would say the interesting part about thinking about R2 is that the novelties for the base kit don't really apply to the Midnight kit. And how do we do that? And in round one, they were kind of both in the novelties kit, which led to some mishmashing where, you know, you've got the colored ones, but then you also have the monochrome ones, because you can't have two novelty kits.
Yeah.
You know, especially back then, like, even with Metro doing as well as it did, it wouldn't have performed. And so I made the decision with the Midnight kit now, like, let's put novelties in the Midnight kit, and then contentiously, like, I cut numpad.
Yeah.
And that was just the decision. Like, if we want this base kit to be the same price as the standard base kit, you can't have novelties and a numpad. And then if you add novelties, that's, I don't know, you know, we didn't get quoted, but maybe $15 more to have all of it. Like, and that just was the decision that I made. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have a second base kit that was so much more than the other one. Just for the numpad, you know, and there's not many, but there are other sets that do that. Most of them are like Mitos, Mitolet, or, you know, kind of the standalone versions of some of the Godspeeds or things like that. Yeah. And, you know, part of that was that looking at how people use Metro, people like the novelties on it. They like putting them in the different spots, like, and I saw way more of that than I saw of it on full-size boards. You know, and so it's just kind of, if I have to choose one or the other, I'm going to let more people do what I've seen people do with it already than try and cover this thing for this use case that I don't see, you know. But again, that does exclude a portion of the hobby, but ultimately that's kind of what it comes down to, is you can't include everybody. Somebody's going to have to be disgruntled. And so how do you handle that?
Those people using, you know, Dvorak, they're gonna.
Yeah,
You're gonna,
but
the five
we
people
always
that still do.
we always use that as an extreme case. In this case, it's a numpad.
Yeah.
It's not some like weird
Well,
guy
it's,
across the pond. It's like an actual user. But
talking about the numpad, it's, I've heard quite a bit, and if you just look at the sheer numbers of boards that are sold compared to boards that are sold with a numpad, it makes zero sense that you would want to charge a bunch of, if 97% of the boards sold in this hobby don't have a numpad. And now look, guess what? The GMMK Pro, a board that is in tons and tons of people's hands, don't have these numpads. Some of the most popular boards right now, the NK65, the Kara from Rama. I am certain that the Bauer Light is going to be a huge hit. So many 65% boards, TKLs. There's only a handful of boards that actually utilize a numpad. So when I see people get mad, I'm like, you're mad because you now have to spend more money. But like if someone came up to you, it's like, would you be mad if you had to spend $15 extra for a 40s kit that you're not going to use? They'd be like, yeah, I'd be mad. I'm like, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't care. So I see why people can get upset, but the numpad is something where it's like, okay, if I want to use the set, I have to pay more for the numpad. And I get it's not the most consumer friendly, but in terms of just sheer numbers and breaking it down by what are the most popular keyboards that are sold, I think in terms of popularity, I'd be impressed if a board that uses a numpad got into the top 20 of just boards sold.
Until we hit the meta for CPs in 1800s. That's always the thing, is that like right now I would say we're in like a 75% meta or popularity or whatever, right?
It's growing.
We had HHKB 60s and it was like they're everywhere, right? And then it went to 65s. 65s were really prevalent, and now it's like, and then maybe the one that led out was the Satisfaction, but now we're 75s. You've got that. You've got GMMK. You've got 7V, Box 75, So
it's
constantly evolving. But I will say that like even in my experience in the hobby, the full size is definitely like, I don't want to say redheaded stepchild, but it's just kind of like over here. Like not many of them are made. Not many.
I would honestly say that the full size community there are less people demanding full size than people like 40s users. There are more 40s boards than full size boards.
Probably.
I get the want, because it's super easy. To me, I understand, like if you're coming from traditional, membrane keyboards, you probably have a numpad. So I get it can be difficult bringing someone in and saying, by the way, you have to axe your numpad, because most boards outside of like maybe the Rect and the KBD 19X, you're not able to find a cheaper priced board that's that big, because it's a lot of metal. It's a lot of
and even the KBD 19X, like I don't think that's been for sale for 2 years.
For a long time.
It's been a long time, but that used to be, I know because I bought one because my wife uses a numpad and she's like, I want a keyboard, but it has to have a numpad. And I said, well, oh shit, hon. I have bad news for you. There's like one that I can get you. Or you can take my TXCP, but I love it too much. I love you, number one. But it's tied. And so I bought the KBD 19X, but even that, I think 6 months later, you just couldn't get them.
Yeah, and like I had an Austin, and I really loved it. It's kind of one of the only boards that I'm like, I wouldn't mind having that board back. But it's so big that I was like, well, do I really need like if I was using it in a situation where I'm always needing a numpad, that's fine. But I can also go buy a numpad kit, and then if I'm doing something that requires a numpad, boom, just pop it out. So
I think the real tragedy here is that you hawked a Texas board.
It's all good. We're buddies. We're buddies. Yeah. I've built like 4 of them. They're great. They're great.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
No. It's all. Hey,
definitely
to be fair,
in a weird spot.
I've hawked like 150 Texas boards from selling the squid and baka, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say you hawked your own boards. I think they call that a shill now.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
I don't know how the Zoomers do it. I'm still trying to figure out what bussin' is.
I wouldn't know. I've heard that. Now, see, I work with elementary school kids, so they get trickle down. So, like, even what they're saying is like out of date because they're getting it from what
the forerunners, right? The secret is that
the
like,
middle
junior
school
high and
age,
TikTok actually scales up from elementary.
Yeah. So who knows? So I want to talk. So you work with Novel Keys now. For those who don't know, it was a pretty cool announcement. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm gonna bring up one last thing. The amount of people. So you had that great Metropolis 2 logo. It was on like the back of a train station, and the amount of people that hit us up saying they stole your logo. Because
I know you get. I think I even reached out, and I think
there was because that's the old logo.
Yeah,
and it was a little similar. And I was like, that's funny. That's really funny.
What would they say if I told them that was around in round 1 though?
I don't know when round 1 was designed, so who knows?
2017.
Ooh, you have us there. You have us there. That was funny. That was who stole whose logo, dude?
You know what? They are both mutually excellent.
Yep, exactly. You know, we can all agree that the new Gmail logo on the phone is not as good. Because I see that stupid M every day.
I keep getting the royalty checks from that, and they're just like, you know.
So, but no. So you're the creative director of Novel Keys. Now, I can imagine that you work in terms of creativity, but what do you do?
That's a great question. I don't even know where to start. Most of what I do is
what do you do
very closely with Mike
in front of your boss? What do you do
in front of my boss? No, what I do with Novel Keys. So some people may not know. Backing way up, I did the logo redesign for Novel Keys.
Like the NK underscore.
Yeah, the one with the underscore. Which we got some good questions about that in their recent Instagram story, and Mike went back and found my old pitch deck and posted what I put there. So there was already somewhat of a precedent for it, but what I do a lot with Novel Keys now is kind of further development on that. So if you caught Mike's Instagram story where he talked about updates in their new office, one of the things he mentioned was a logo. Not a logo, a website relaunch. So that's what I've been working on fairly heavily, is getting a lot of things ready for that. Loosely, a lot of that is brand solidification.
Yeah.
So making sure that certain things stay true to who we are as a brand, and some of that is determining who we are as a brand.
Yeah.
You may have noticed that there's a lot more of a certain blue color that's starting to pop up within Novel Keys stuff. You may have seen some in packaging. If not, you might see some shortly. You may see it in social stuff, and that is our brand color. And so it's this process of kind of turning everything over to that. What gets that color? What deviates? How is that color used? We are working on a lot of product development, and so a lot of that is packaging for those products. How are they packaged? How are they packaged consistently? Another thing we're working on is how are they packaged environmentally friendly?
Yeah.
We are in a hobby that deals a lot with small amounts of plastic. That's just it. Like, plastic is not that great for the environment, and we know this, but there are things that we can do outside of that, which is packaging? How do we use more paper, less styrofoam, less injection molded foam? Things like that. What else do I do? You may have seen some event stuff teased. So we've been working really hard on that. Branding for the event and just logistics for the event. You know, here's where we want to do it. Here's how many people we have. Here's how many people we think is safe and appropriate. Here's how we're going to kind of do this. And so working closely back and forth, brainstorming things like that.
Novelty says you were basically hired to be your best friend.
What? That's why I joined, though.
Yeah.
He can't hire me for the same reason I joined, right? Oh no, that just means that we're basically in a relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I hear. But hey, that's okay.
Consensual.
It's double consensual.
So,
well,
I mean, I could keep going, but I mean that's kind of it, you know. Like,
yeah.
And then there's product and keycap stuff. There's like I do a lot of stuff working with new keycap runners, people wanting to run sets, sort of vetting some of that. There's a lot of kind of stuff behind the scenes. So if you're dealing with manufacturers and files and things like that, there are kind of standards in files that make it a lot easier for manufacturers to use. A lot of designers that aren't classically trained in print design are somewhat unaware of these.
Yeah.
And so it's education. It's, you know, here's how manufacturers or printers prefer to receive files. Here's how the layer separation is. Here's how you determine that this should be printed in a what's called a spot color, which is typically a Pantone, which means it's an ink and not offset or a CMYK digital print. Like how to specify all of that.
Yeah.
So that we don't send it to a manufacturer and they take a best guess, and then that first sample round is scuffed because it was sent over wrong.
Well, it's great what you're doing. I want to talk about we'll talk about samples here in a few, but one thing that I definitely commend Novel Keys for doing, and they kind of jumped out in the forefront, is we talked about this right before the stream of managing expectations, and they came out with the key sets. I don't think if they are going to be running those sets, I know they'll be using, if I remember correctly, they're using a different manufacturer, but it was a white on black set, and then it was the purple and other purple. So I'm going completely blank on the name of it.
Are you talking about purple, blue on white? The one that had purple with like the light blue?
It was like a set. It was a GMK set that they made.
Okay.
I'm going completely blank on the name. Vaporwave. Thank you. Vaporwave.
There you go.
So, and they came out and said, hey, like, we want to come out and say, this is our expectation of this, because these are being sold at this price. So you may notice some imperfections. And here is the list of what we are deeming acceptable. And you can even go further back to, box switches of saying, hey, by the way, guys, box switches are going to have a small tilt on them. When you put them all in a row, like, that's just how they are. They're going to have a small tilt. That's not a defect. That's just like you need to know this before going in. And I won't say box switches anymore, because I'm pretty sure that's probably a banned word at Novel Keys. But I really like that you guys do the like you've managed people's expectations on what to expect. It's you're able to kind of come out and say, hey, it's not going to be perfect. So how do you set that? How do you set those expectations of, well, what do I call something that, how far are we able to kind of lean? How much can we kind of bend to this versus what's not acceptable, and setting those guidelines?
I mean, really what it comes down to, like, is just kind of outlining some of the things that maybe people already know, right?
Mm-hmm.
PBT sometimes has issues with warped spacebars.
It
And
happens.
that's something that we call out, because it's in my mind, it is unrealistic to go back to this manufacturer and say our expectation is that no spacebar will be warped ever again, or you're fired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like nobody would be able to hit that. And does that mean that every set has a warped spacebar? No, but is the potential there? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of that is letting them know. And sometimes it's hard. Like we're making these acceptable standard documentations, and it's like, oh, I guess we have to put that in there. Like,
Yeah.
And in some of the more recent ones, like I will take a photo of the problem,
Mm-hmm.
and it's typically on like a sample, and it's like, you may get some stem twisting, or there may be like a small dent in something, and we're putting
Well,
that in there because honestly it is something that could happen. It doesn't mean that every time it happens, but what it does is, as a vendor and dealing with quality control, there are certain price points and there's certain quality to be expected from a price point. If we release a PBT set for $50, it is not a $200
yeah, it's not
gaming
gonna
case.
it's not gonna be perfect.
So
Well, that and
so
like people nowadays, we've talked about this a good bit. People nowadays, they put a keyset on a board. They don't even put a keyset on the board, and then they're just like, okay, everything's wrong. I have to put, like, they take whatever it is, and then they put everything under a microscope. And it's like I said before, enjoy the products for what they are. Before, if you're opening up expecting to find something wrong, you're probably going to find something wrong, because we're dealing with thousands and thousands of keycaps. And two, like you're what are you hoping to find? Like, are you trying to do a gotcha? Are you trying to be like a whistleblower? Then like, why are you even buying this stuff if the only thing you're wanting to do is get mad about that? And that's what infuriates me is you get people that are so excited to open up and see if something's wrong with the set, then I'm like, then why are you even buying it? Like, when I buy a set, I buy something and I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see how it comes out. If it doesn't turn out, then I'll be a little bit upset. But when I first open a key set, the first thing I'm doing is not, let me find out what's fucking wrong with it.
yeah. Top clack, being toxic is the new being wholesome.
Exactly.
Part of it does feel like that, right? Like there is this sort of bandwagoning effect where, granted, our hobby has gone through some drama. Like, I don't know that there hasn't been a single person that's like been through the shit on it if they've been in the hobby for a while. And there is a love of drama. Like, it's just kind of human nature.
Yeah.
Like, shit's going down and everybody wants to like be there and watch.
Mechs on Deck would be pretty boring on Tuesdays if there wasn't something to talk about. If everything was perfect, we'd just be like, hey guys, update, everything's perfect again. Anyway, have a nice night.
The caps are hitting numbers and they're all great. Color matching on point.
Color matching was like, what's
Show
sad
closed.
What's sad now is if it was like color matching was perfect, that's something we would come on and talk about.
And so, and it can feel like that. Like, somebody says, oh, this color matches, this is bad. Or somebody, I'm not calling names, but like somebody held a neon Pantone swatch, like an actual neon ink swatch, up to a desk mat and was like, oh, these don't match. Bad. And it's like, well, okay. Neon can't fundamentally be printed. Like,
it's a light.
Impossibility.
It's literally a light.
Yeah, or it has to be done in ink, and everything else is done through a different process that makes it like, it doesn't matter how much money you have, like you cannot do what that expectation was. And so you have things like that, you have color match issues, there's always going to be quality control issues, and some doesn't mean that all of them are unfounded. Sometimes things slip through. Sometimes there's something that is legitimately like, oh, this one had a specific problem. I always feel like if you feel like there's a legitimate problem and you have a legitimately defective product, the very first thing you should do is contact the company you bought it from.
Yeah.
The very first thing a lot of people seem to do is I'm going to hit Instagram, I'm going to hit Reddit, I'm going to hit whatever, and, put people on blast, which really doesn't solve anything. It just means that you prefer stirring the shit rather than getting an okay product back.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
shit happens.
And people will always do it. And as a vendor, yeah, look, that's frustrating. Mm-hmm. Even as like a self-proclaimed nice guy, like that's frustrating to see people do, right? Like,
well, people should be allowed to fix the mistake beforehand, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, I mean, people aren't really getting, like, I've seen people trash, oh, the shipping box was damaged. Well, that's probably not even their fucking fault, right? But,
yeah.
What I don't like, and a huge pet peeve of mine, and especially like in my profession, is when people don't allow me to fix a mistake before they go and tell 10 other people, oh, this person messed up. Well, cool. How am I messing up? Give me tell me what I'm doing wrong, and I'll do my best to fix it. If I don't think I could do my best to fix it, maybe then tell me what I can do to fix it.
Yeah.
And make sure that's a reasonable request. So, it's not like if someone comes in and goes, my K key is messed up, and it's like, well, how can I fix this for you? And it's like, well, GMK needs to fix it. Well, that's not a reasonable request. Yeah. And also, you shouldn't be mad at the company now. You should be mad at the manufacturer. So it's, you're just, it's becoming, I just have not liked the fact, we'll talk about now, Modern Dolce Light. Modern Dolce Light seems to be getting a lot of flack across the interwebs for color matching, which to me is hilarious because people are comparing what is most likely a phone pic or in some way, shape, or form, a picture where the colors have been adjusted, and they're sending that to someone else's monitor, and then that person pulls up a render, which is literally a digital image of something else, and putting it up on their monitors, 2 different images on their monitor, and going, well, that doesn't match up perfectly. How fucking dare you?
Right. I'm going to love this conversation.
And that drives me insane.
I feel like the internet should know by now that if you see a photo on the internet, assume that it's photoshopped.
Yep.
Right?
Everything's always photoshopped.
Everything's photoshopped, everything's retouched.
Yeah.
Like, what is the purpose of...
You think I look this good in person? I don't.
Well, Chewy, you definitely do.
Oh, yeah, right.
First and foremost, right? Like, I saw you in the interlude before we went live. Like, that's all real. No, you assume that everything's been retouched. People post... The reason people post things to Instagram, and I'm guilty as well, like, you post it because you want to make a cool photo of something. Yeah. You're not posting it for color fidelity, right? Like... You get it and you're like, oh, cool. Well, this background is like slightly greener than the teal. I'm going to mask that out and I'm going to adjust it so that it matches more because it makes a better photo. I'm not on, and this is kind of different. Like I'm talking about my personal Nephlock Instagram photos. Like a lot of those backgrounds are retouched to be coming in line because the purpose is not to put it up on a website and say, hey, this is exactly what you're going to get. It's me making a nice photo of something I'm passionate about. I'm going to do it the best justice that I can. And if something's a little out of line, I'm going to put it in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you can ask almost anybody taking keyboard photos, like there is a level of doing that.
Yeah. I have to, like Mizu to me, I love my Baka 60, the very first Baka that was built. It's my baby. It has Mizu on it. I hate taking pictures of it because it's so hard to get Mizu what it looks like in person right on camera because it's so easy for the alphas to get washed out. Like it's impossible.
Lang, one of my favorite photos that I took of a keyboard was Bento. Oh my God.
Yeah, Bento's a nightmare. Bento,
I went through the same issue that you did.
Bento to me is the best looking set that is takes the worst pictures ever.
Yeah,
Bento, like it looks so good in person, and I have yet to see someone do it justice in a camera.
So you know, like everybody's adjusting stuff, and so if you take that as like, oh, cool, this is verbatim how that set turned out. I haven't seen it in person, but I saw this. You know, it's like the old school. Like I heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who, right? Um, that's kind of the bandwagoning effect. Is like, oh, I saw this photo, and a buddy of mine is the one that took it, but I haven't seen it personally. But he's offended, so I'm going to be offended on his behalf. Let's get a couple more people to say that this is incorrect. When really, like, only one person has seen it in person, and they took a photo. You know, all of that's kind of conjecture on how that happens, but I think it does happen. And really, that's kind of the core of it, is what you were talking about, is somebody takes a photo that somebody took on a phone, holds it next to a render. They're not the same thing. Is the dress white and gold or blue and black all over again?
Yep.
And there's really, aside from like driving to the store and taking a look at the dress, you're going to see it how you see it, and that is immediately going to set your expectation on what you will receive. And there's some things that you can do to kind of mitigate that, but you can't really account for it. And so part of that is, again, understanding what some of the pitfalls are, understanding what you're getting into, and managing that expectation so that if you receive something and it's like slightly different, understanding that it's not like people were purposefully doing a bad job, outside of some very few key sets that get hammered over and over and over again. Most designers aren't trying to do a bad job.
Yeah.
And it's not looking at it on a shitty screen and then expecting it to come out that way, and does not mean that it's the designer's fault or the manufacturer's fault or the vendor's fault or whoever else's fault. And that's really tough to manage too. So, and part of that is renders. Like, everything is an approximation, and what you're dealing with is margin for error. You're trying to get it as close as possible, knowing that you will never get 100% on it.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, it's impossible. Like, it's insane. Like, the color matching thing has just been an ongoing trial and error, and people are going to do, you know, like you said, people are going to do the best. People don't actively come out and go, I'm going to try and piss everybody off today.
Right.
like no one's trying. But
I'm looking at, someone in chat, Gnarly Charlie, for you. He is asking about including color codes in the IC or showing samples.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to call that out. Like, you can do that. You can do that. And it kind of goes both ways. Like, sometimes, especially if you're, say, picking a Pantone color, right? You are picking a Pantone color. What is Pantone used for? Pantone is used for ink on paper. Or an ink, so you can use it for like dye set, but Pantone is an ink.
Yep.
And so you cannot make a plastic off of what people typically, Pantone does have plastic chips, but most people go off of Pantone coated, which is an ink fan. Which means if you're taking that to a keycap, you will never get 100% between the two.
Yep. Which means that
the designer has to make a judgment call on when it is close enough. The problem is that is the designer's decision on what is close enough.
Yep.
So if you include a color reference in an IC, I'm not saying it's bad or it's good. What I've seen result is that someone else will have their own Pantone fan.
Yep.
Lang said it 2 weeks ago. Pantone recommends that you change your color books out every 12 to 18 months. Do I personally feel like that's excessive? Yes. You know, they do fade. Do they fade as soon as it hits a year old? Is it unusable? No. You know,
if you leave them on your dashboard, probably, but you know.
yeah, right. And does it fade over time? Sure. Is in 5 years, can you hold them together with a new one and notice a difference? maybe it depends on the situations that the fan's been put into. But talking back to that, somebody will have their own Pantone fan and look at it and say, "Oh, I personally feel like you made the wrong judgment call. I know
Yeah.
you're the designer of the set, but this is slightly lighter than this chip." Well, that's fine, because that's the designer's decision to say, like, "Oh, we can't actually hit this color. I have to make a judgment call." And so at that point, you're becoming an armchair quarterback to someone
Yep.
else's design process without having been in the trenches yourself.
Yep.
And sure, could it have gotten closer? Yes, but you're dealing with color matching rounds. So,
Yep.
I'm going to bring it up because I'm going to bring it up. Dracula has gone through 5 color matching rounds,
yeah.
6 color matching rounds, and I'm not
A
saying
lot.
that they weren't all necessary, but at some point, and this is the judgment call, you have to say, is this close enough, or do I go another round?
Mm.
It is my eye perceiving 90% this color good enough, or do I go and try and get it to be closer colors? And that doesn't always mean that if I go another round, I'll definitely get 5 more percent. There is a fatiguing that happens on the manufacturer's end that you have to be considerate of. If you go back to GMK and say, "Sorry guys, the 9th round wasn't good enough. Let's go for 10." Like, at what point are you becoming that client that is the shitty client that means that they won't do good work for you because they don't like dealing with you?
Mm-hmm.
And you can say, "Let's go for 5 more percent," and they may send something back that's 80%, and then you have to go again.
Well, it's are you going to be happy with 98% in 1 year, or are you going to be happier with 98.2% in 3
years later?
Yeah. Like how at what point do you draw that line? And Eric and I have talked about this a lot, which is when you're buying a Keyset, you're buying into the designer. You're buying into the designer and the designer's process. There is a healthy exception or expectation, I should say. There's a healthy expectation that what is presented to you on your screen, and if you're looking to buy a Keyset, I suggest looking at it on a TV, on a computer screen, on your phone, on your buddy's phone. Look at it in 4 or 5 different things. If you can, look on it in as many as you can, because each screen's going to be different. So what it might look great on one set, it might on one monitor, it might look terrible on another. So what I suggest is try and know that when you're buying into the designer's vision of the reasonable expectation that what is on the render will be as close as they see fit to a Keyset in its design. I mean, even if it's in stock and they've done all the color matching, even if you're taking a picture, we talked about this, and I want to talk about the picture you sent me, where even if you have something in person, it's going to look different. Even if you're taking a picture of it and you're saying, "Hey guys, like this is something I have in hand. These are physical things." It doesn't matter, because if you're looking at it on a different screen, it doesn't matter if it's a render. You can get what literally is a picture, and then when you receive it, it might not match up. It really might not match up. So when you bring in, I disagree. I don't think people should have to post their color codes. I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe if you remove the color code and go, "Hey, this is the color that I was looking at when I did that." But again, you're bringing out the concept that people, instead of enjoying it, they're just going to look and see, well, what's close.
Yeah, and like I said, posting the color codes in your IC, it's neither good nor bad, but personally,
it shouldn't be a requirement.
It shouldn't be a requirement, and I think that there's problems on both sides. If you don't post the color code, people will bitch and say, like, "Oh, well, you didn't post the color code, so we couldn't hold you accountable." Or you do post the color code, and a different set of people said, "Cool, I have this color, I'm looking at it, I am expecting nothing but a 10 from you, and nothing else."
Yeah. You're
will
almost setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, and again, that's somebody else now knowing a standard that they're going to hold you to, when the process itself means that you can't actually hit that standard, you know.
And what the other thing, shout out to Nebulant. If Nebulant, if you're in the chat, huge shout out to you, because you've been doing a shit ton of great work for designers in the community and getting their color matching correct. So just huge props there. But the other thing is you're having to what I fear is other people get mad when like a designer designs one set and it's really, really fucking good. And then a designer goes and designs another set, and then they're like, well, now I'm mad because now this isn't perfect. And I want to talk to you because you've designed two very, very different sets. Both of them have been received very well. Metropolis, I think, being received a little bit more favorably than Kaiju. I think people just don't like orange and green as much as Metropolis. I don't think it's one set's better than the other. I just think that
orange and green. You think?
Yeah. Who would have thought that orange and green would not be his favorite?
The two pariah colors in keycaps.
I've got fucking bento on my desk, and I've got Peaches and Cream, which I fucking love how Peaches and Cream came out. I still love that set. I think it was a great fucking set. I actually like that way better than Peaches and Cream Light or whatever it was called. But you did two very different sets, and that's two very different approaches to color matching. So talk about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I'll talk about Metro first since it was the first one. Metro was originally spec'd in Pantone. And that's because I, as a designer, primarily a print designer, I live in Pantone. And so that's what I had access to color-wise. That's, that was my life. So I knew what colors it was in Pantone. But we switched it to RAL for manufacturing so that GMK could hit it easier. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows GMK hits RAL easier because RAL is a color matching system that is set up for doing that. RAL has plastic mix codes. Pantone does not. Pantone has ink mix codes. So at that point, when you're sending a Pantone color to be spec'd for something that is using a process that doesn't deal with ink, all you're doing is telling that manufacturer that we're speaking the same language.
Yep.
You can look at this and you know what I mean when I say this. It's saying, I want red, and they know what red. But they still have to go through their own process of, okay, now I have to mix these. So imagine someone handed you a Pantone chip and, red, yellow, and blue acrylic paint and said, this is the color I want.
Yeah.
Now you just have to mix it till it's right. There's no formula given to you to make that because you're working with a different set of tools.
I mean, it'd be the same thing as if someone handed you a lit light bulb and said, match that beigeish orange color. Here's white, red, and yellow.
Yeah,
and you're like, what? Well, what the fuck? And then also they're gonna be like, we're also gonna dim the light up and down a few times while you're doing.
Yeah, we're just gonna. Also, there's 3,000 angry people on Reddit that are expecting
that are all staring at you, waiting for it to be perfect. And if it's not,
waiting for you to fail, actually, because if you're perfect, it's like, oh well, it did good. Yeah. And if it fails, it's like the torches come out. Yeah. So part of that I believe is education. But back to your original question. So we took Metro to RAL to have GMK match it. Even using RAL, it's the same issue. You're not going to hit 100% match, right? Mm-hmm. You can get very, very close, but you're just not going to. And no color matching system in the world is set up so that oh cool, this and cool, 100% done, right? It's to get that margin of error much smaller. And so everybody's speaking the same language. So we converted Metro to RAL for GMK, but RAL does not have a color that was quite like the red that I wanted in the Pantone. And so we had to do some manual adjustment. And what I'm going to say, it may blow their mind. I don't know. They may be angry at it. The Pantone, I sent them the Pantone color and I sent them the red color from the RAL deck. And I said, this is the closest in RAL that you will get to this Pantone, but I would like this RAL to be a little bit closer.
Mhm.
They did it, and I took it and I approved it. Because what you're not going to do is say, hey, let's go 5 more rounds so that I can move you out of a color matching system and try and get you to hit another color matching system.
Yeah.
Right? If you put Metro Red in between the original IC Pantone Red and the RAL Red, it doesn't match either of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I was happy with the red.
Yep.
You're buying
yeah. into the designer's vision, not perfection.
So Mineral 4X, how do you think automotive companies match paint chips? They match it with a mixing. I know this because I have a buddy who owns a body shop. They do a lot of painting. Even within a single car and a mix of paint, body panels on cars are not the same color. What they do is they usually fade a little bit, and that's where body panel seams break. If you took different sprays, that even the angle comes up differently. If you spray it at a different angle, it will be a little bit different color, but your car has seams, and so you don't perceive it. And they'll do body panels in single passes, and they're not going to spray it this way and then spray it this way. But they do shift slightly. It's a lot easier for like Toyota to have their plant and say, we're making this, because at that point they control the color on all of those cars going off of the line, and they're mixing all of that, and it's being mixed with the same machines and the same inks. If you took a car from somewhere else and took it to Mako, they can get the numbers and they can make the same color paint, but it's slightly different, made with different machines. They have the numbers, and it's all about, again, that margin of error. It's about squishing that margin of error so that if you see a Toyota drive by in cement, and then you see somebody's Kia Soul that they got custom painted at a different body shop in that same cement color drive by right behind it, you're going to go, oh, it's the same color. But you're not going to rip the door off the Kia, hold it up next to the Toyota, and feather it in and be like, oh
wait,
these aren't the same. So I just wanted to address that like everything I'm talking about is margin of error squish, so that it's deemed acceptable. And it's not just something we do in the hobby, it's something major companies do. You look at Coca-Cola, whose brand is a trademarked color red.
Yeah.
They do the same thing.
Yep. As close as you can. So, but color matching, we'll leave color matching at the door now. We've talked about it, and people are trying their best, right?
All the time.
People are trying their best. It comes up. Hold your judgments, but be excited. If you're buying something, if you're spending something, when you buy a TV, do you bring it home and you set it up and then you immediately start looking for its flaws? When you buy a new computer, do you look it up and immediately start looking for its flaws? No, you buy things because you want to enjoy your stuff. Color approximating.
Of people doing their best. Can I go pee?
Yeah, we can take a short. Well, so we're gonna take a quick. Be right back. Fast. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll read I'll do the sponsorship. So, guys, real quick, we are sponsored by a couple of awesome sponsors. We've got OmniType currently running GMK Botanical Round 2. So be sure to go over and check that out, as well as you can check out Project Keyboards at mexondeck.project.link. They're running GMK Bingsu Round 2. Go check that out. Canon Keys, you can go to canonkeys.com/mexondeck. You can go over there. GMK Moomin is running right now, as well as GMK Foundation is wrapping up soon. They've also got some new devastating TKLs coming out in different colors, so very, very cool to see that coming out. And then, of course, you can go to kineticlabs.store/mexondeck. They've got the new octopus caps are coming very soon, as long as a restock on the whale PBT caps. Really cool to see those in-stock sets as well. So, and then we also have some amazing partners. Zap Cables. He just had an Instagram post about a couple new really cool colors of cables that are available. So you can go head on over there and check those out, and you can build them yourself, or you can pick up maybe a desk mat. You can pick up supplies to build cables. All that stuff is over there. Go to Typebeast, typebea.st. He makes an amazing newsletter on what's happening in the hobby. Smith and Rune, you go to smithrune.com. The Iron 165 polycarb will be running later this year, as well as keep an eye out on extras for the Iron 165 and Iron 180. And then, of course, 3dkeebs.com. Go check it out. She's got a lot of awesome switches over there, and lots of lube and stabilizers, all that stuff that you need. So go check that out. Welcome back.
Hey, we did it. We did it, Reddit.
We got there.
Official in chat. IP.
Boom. I want to talk about SA Tatooine. So,
all right.
Novel Keys, for those who don't know, Novel Keys has a relationship with Disney, a business relationship with Disney, where they're kind of the first people. You know, it's ironic that GMK Moomin's running right now. We haven't seen a lot of keyboard companies officially work with brands or IP, and Disney wouldn't let you just do it without a formal. Disney would come after you pretty damn quick if.
You mean they don't do under the table shakes like, oh hey Disney, I'm doing this. Cool.
We good? I just sold. What is it? Mickey Mouse is like about to go into public domain, I think.
Oh, anyway, that's gonna be a fight.
That'll be an interesting lawsuit. Anyway. So SA Tatooine, it started all the way back with DSA. What's the name of that set?
Galactic Empire.
Galactic Empire. Thank you. DSA Galactic Empire. You've done work with Breaking Bad as well, but SA Tatooine, you said you did all of the novelties on that, and that's interesting because you know how keycaps work, and you know how keycaps how the novelties will turn out, and now you're having to take that and put it into, you have to take like these amazing artwork that was done fucking 30-40 years ago, and you have to turn it into a keycap that does it justice, does it well. But it's also kind of like not your art. It's your art, but then it's not your. It's a confusing thing for me. So explain your process in SA Tatooine.
So like, process is interesting because you are working with licensed IP, right? And so the process is a lot different, not totally different, but it's different, and it's a lot more drawn out than our typical keyboard process. Like what a normal non-IP set would have to do. And I don't know. I can't really speak for Moomin. I don't know if there were similar hoops there. But especially with Disney's not really known for being like a just kind of let it fly company. What we end up having to do for a licensed set, we also have a licensing relationship with Sony. You mentioned Breaking Bad. That's a Sony IP. Another one that we have through 2022 is Ghostbusters. They want to see what you're going to sell, which means that you have to make the keycap set, and this kind of dovetails maybe after this into a topic that I want to talk about. But the process with Tatooine is that we have to show Disney, we show them our idea essentially, which is just like the pitch, and there are requirements. You may have seen on all of our licensed Star Wars sets, there's a little copyright LFL on one of the keys. Like that is a Disney requirement, because that's a copyright for the IP.
Have you? So one thing I really want, because that was one of when I looked at it, and I was like, I'm personally the big reason I didn't get it. I wasn't a huge fan of the colors, but that's Tatooine, right? And it was your fault that back in 1970, whatever the year Star Wars was made, George Lucas picked some colors for a desert, and that's your fault. That's your fault.
Well,
That's your
the
fault.
the colors of the key set were my interpretation.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
No.
talk about you know, it's a little divisive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm also on Discord. I know what people say.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
So
people are like, "What?
the
You have
copyright
Tatooine,
logo.
and these are the colors that you picked?" And
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
because
well, yeah, I
Star Wars
picked,
fans are worse than keyboard community members. So.
I could have picked a sandy desert.
I mean, this is literally coming from someone named Chewy who released boards called the Baka. So.
I'm sorry I didn't put Chewie on Tatooine.
It's all good.
You know, like
guess what?
anyway,
exactly.
So.
Also, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think Chewie ever goes to Tatooine, so I think we're okay there. I guess, sort of vis-a-vis and somewhat. Anyway, we're not talking about Star Wars. We're just talking about key sets. But the copyright logo. One thing I really wish they had done is made a copyright logo key. That would have been fucking amazing. That was the only thing I thought that was missing from that whole set. I know you have to have the copyright on one of the keys. It makes sense. It's one of the most profitable brands in the world. It's one of the most recognizable brands on the planet is Star Wars. So of course, you're gonna have that. I saw that being one of the biggest critiques was this copyright logo. And again, I think it's just it's not like Novel Keys had free reign to do whatever the hell they wanted. They had to turn it into someone. So so how is working with that?
I mean, it's fine. What you have to realize is that in order to get, and this may seem different, and I think people called it out. You know, when we sold SA Tatooine, we had physical sets, right?
Yeah.
We sent a physical set to, I think Alex Otos did a stream of it, maybe a couple other people, but we had physical sets of it. Because what you need to do is we pitched to Disney our idea, you know, and you go through revision there. Like, I would say most of the novelties that I made on that, the theme, they didn't really have a problem with the theme. They loved the theme. Most of the novelties were good. The novelty for the Tusken Raider was difficult. On both sides, because
it's hard.
How do you take
a Tusken
Raider and put it on the side, half the size of a dime?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to abstract some details, leave some things out, and what you're going for is can I make this recognizable down here? You know,
but then and you can't leave Tusken Raiders out of SA Tatooine.
No.
So it's honestly, that's a double.
My favorite novelty in there is that I got Salacious Crumb in there because we had the Jabba enter, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna make Jabba low-key. Salacious Crumb's my favorite character anyway, and so I just had to make it, and so I put him in there. But you're taking these things that have to be recognizable, and you are taking them down and down and down, and you can only get so much detail down there. So, you know, was it difficult? Sure. Was it worth it? Yeah, I think so. You know, some people don't prefer the set, but damn if making that set was not fun. That was fun. It was a good time. I made something that was Star Wars that was signed off by Disney to be a licensed piece of Star Wars memorabilia at this point.
Yeah.
I made something that I think made George Lucas money.
More money.
More money, you know what I mean? But it's just this weird thing that I never would have thought when I was little that something that I would do would have such a direct relationship to somebody that I grew up kind of idolizing work, you know? Yeah. So it's very interesting. But, you know, in order to show, like I was saying, in order to show Disney, we pitched the idea, they approved the idea, but they also need to see what it is. So we have to do a run of the set. You know, lead times are not small right now. You know, so Tatooine was done a while ago, but we have to wait for Signature Plastics to fit us into the queue to make the set, to then get the what I'm going to call a small limited run physically, and then show that to either Disney or Sony and say, hey, look, this is the physical thing of what we're doing. And then they give us approval, and then we can put it up for buy. So it takes almost twice as long.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Because you basically have to run a group buy in
yeah.
hopes that
Oh yeah, like it's just a
they're
group
okay
buy
with
that
it.
we buy out. You know,
Yeah.
like we buy a smaller amount of sets in order to go through the approval process. And I don't think a lot of people understand that that's what we have to do in order to do that. You know, so um,
Yeah.
that just walking that through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, but aside from like just having to do lead times twice, like it's I'd say it's enjoyable. Like it's a lot of fun. You know, yeah, there's a little bit more in terms of like the requirement angle. But quite honestly, as a designer, sometimes half the fun is like somebody giving you a box and you
Mm-hmm.
saying like, "Cool, I have this box that I have to design around. What can I get away with?"
Yeah.
You know, and Disney's got a pretty tight box on some things, and you know, when we made Tatooine, we sent it to them. They're like, "Oh my god, that's great, we love it." You know, which is just encouraging on making more sets.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about you've talked about in stock. I want to talk about a picture you sent me. This picture, this was sent to me by him earlier, literally like 10 minutes before we started. And let's see, files, where is it? It's just going to pop up over the screen because there it is. So let's talk about this picture. We'll cover up the Mechs on Deck logo for now.
So
this is a picture that is unique.
So this is, for those that may not know, this is the kit for PBT Notion. It's a beep set that is on Novel Keys that we did in stock. So
Yep.
we released this, and you could buy it, and our warehouse manager Jeff, or you know, Michael, or one of the people in the warehouse would put it in a box, put some tape on it,
Boom.
slap it with your shit, and send it to you, and you would get it 4 days later, right? Which is not something that is done often in this hobby, right?
Nope.
Usually it goes in and you get email updates saying it's delayed and this and that, and then you get it, you know, 1 to never years later.
Mm-hmm.
So what this is something that we at Novel Keys are starting to do more and more of, and trying to push for more and more of. We've done it with a couple sets. We did it with, obviously, Notion. Here's the photo. We did it with Purple, Blue on White. We did it with SA Tatooine that we were just barely talking about. And what this is not a render.
Yep.
It's set up like we in the community are used to seeing from our renders in terms of like the kitting photo, but this is a photo of physical keycaps laid out that way. That's been basically, we set it up with a color checker, studio lights, and we take a photo of it and basically validate it for color. Part of what this is this is an attempt to, like we were talking about early, squish that margin for error. So part of the issue is that renders are, again, an approximation that happen well before there's physical product. But if you have physical product, you can do something like this where you're taking, this is what I'd call normal stores, vendors do. They take a photo of the thing that they're selling you. You know, the group buy model is really, it's like us and Kickstarter that are so invested into what this is. You know, Kickstarter deals with the same issues that we in the hobby do, where people get their stuff and they're like, whoa, this doesn't quite work as well as your flashy YouTube videos told me it would. And it's like, well, there's 2 years of translation in terms of like compromises and things that likely had to happen. So that's what we're starting to do more and more of, is things that are in stock, shooting a photo of it so that, and again, this does not account for people viewing it on different screens and things like that, but it gets the needle closer than having a render that then gets misinterpreted. And that this is a copy of the final thing that you can order that is exactly the same as the thing that you get. You know, what I see in chat Wax Poetic and Mineral 4X asking questions about
Yeah.
a jig. That's essentially what we have to do with this. Is that I have a system for laying down a jig, and I can put the keycaps in there and then pull it off. So it's not me setting them down one by one and then bumping the table 90% of the way through and saying like, oh shit, there goes my Tuesday. But so that's essentially what we're trying to do, is anything in stock, trying to do more things in stock, but anything in stock is an actual studio photograph of what you will be receiving.
Yeah.
And those are also what we use to make those acceptable standards documents that you mentioned earlier. In that these are essentially the copies of the first wave of samples, which are production samples, and then we shoot these, and then we look at all of them for some of the potential standards that we may have to include.
Yeah. So it's great to get. Even if the colors aren't going to be 100% perfect from your monitor, people like knowing that something physically exists in this hobby. I talked to a board that I am very close to releasing for a group buy. I have the prototype with me, and I'm like, well, I don't want to release any renders, because the whole reason I prototyped it is so I could take a bunch of pictures with a couple different key sets and then release this board, but only have pictures of it, because people like, with keyboards, people like seeing an actual picture of the keyboard, not just a render. And I think that kind of goes with this. It's that peace of mind knowing, okay, oh, this already exists. They've already gone through the process. Because, I mean, at this case, I guess the main question is with PBT Notion is like, if you go, well, it didn't match that, it's like, well, what do you want me to do about it? This is an in-stock buy. There was the color match, all that is gone. And I kind of wish some GMK sets were like that, where it's like, hey, here it is in person. Here it is. Here it is. If you like it, buy it. If you don't. Because there are some sets. That's kind of why I like the round twos work so well, right? So you go,
it's a known entity,
I know what it
like,
is. I know what sadly, the last year and a half, people have not been able to go out and see, see a lot of sets in person. But when you see something in person, you're like, okay, and now I know forever what that looks like. Like, I feel like Bento was probably one of those sets that was sought after more aftermarket, because they were like, oh, now that I've seen it, I know that it doesn't look like ass on a camera, but it looks amazing in person. That's all that matters. So,
well, some of that, like, maybe they've seen enough photos, I feel like for a round two, even if you haven't seen it in person, you've seen enough photos of it around.
You can gauge,
how it behaves a little bit.
I mean, like with Moto Light, I've seen 6 different pictures of Moto Light. They all look slightly different. I'm just excited to see what it looks like on my desk, in my lighting. Like
the funny thing with those is that, like, I mean, it seems to happen with every set where it's like the one person gets it before everybody else, and they always, like, I don't know, I liken it to when people take, like, the back warehouse shop of the GameStop in Eastern Russia, where it's like the one leaked thing where it's always a blurry photo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so the first person's like, oh, I'm the first one to put this photo up on the internet, and it's always some, like, rush job, and you take it with a grain of salt. But the more photos start popping up, the more you see, like, oh, is it aligning to that? Is theirs out of whack and everything's aligning different?
So Novelty said they actually planned that for some sets, where it's just, hey, here it is, but lead times killed some of those plans. We'll talk about lead times in just a moment, because I still think the greatest video that exists that has ever been taken in this hobby was from Garrett of Omnitype when 8008 came out. And he had 8008 on his Bauer, and he was filming. And mind you, the designer, the one thing that this never makes sense to me, the designer of the set was not the first person to see the full set completed. All the people in Europe are now mad, and he's like, I haven't even seen it. Calm down. And he takes it, and he's inside. He's literally inside, and he's filming, and he walks outside, and you can literally see the entire set look different as he walks inside to outside. And I'm like, anyone that complains anything about keyboards and key sets and color, watch that video. It literally, the guy, in 5 seconds, the set looked 2 completely different shades. Where it was on Instagram forever ago. I doubt it still exists somewhere. If someone has it, that'd be great. But I mean, you can do it yourself, right? Take your phone out tomorrow in the day. Take your phone out, take a set. Probably not like a white on black or black on white. So if it's one of Nephlock's favorite sets, maybe don't use that one.
or do.
Yeah, like, why not?
I've already signed off on those colors, so you can complain about it all you want.
Throw it in our Discord. I'd actually love to see that. Take sets from take your boards, hold in one hand, film it, and walk outside and take that video. I would love to see that, because there are so many sets that will adjust, or the camera. You'll literally watch the camera adjust the colors, like, and just post it. Don't sit there and, try and edit the video. Just post it raw, because I'm actually quite interested to see how many sets kind of change and look strange. People complaining about colors with yellow lights. Yeah. So, GMK. GMK is a problem right now, unfortunately. GMK, you and I were around when SA was this, where it was, I'm not gonna buy an SA set. That'll take a year, and GMK takes 6-7 months. Now we're kind of ironically going, I'll take an SA set. That'll only take a year. GMK, I'm sure that's plaguing Mike. I'm sure that's plaguing you. I'm sure that's plaguing the fact that not only do we have this, I know through the grapevine that I can guarantee that Novel Keys, Mike from Novel Keys, knows every single set that he's going to release through the rest of this year, probably well into next year as well. He knows exactly that I'm sure there's a calendar that's got, hey, this is every GMK set we're going to be running the next year.
I think I have access to that.
I'm sure you do.
Do you want me to pull it up? Everybody can just see what's going on. Don't fire me.
That's up to you.
No, I'm just kidding.
If you decide to do that, that's up to you. No, that's all planned out. But unfortunately, there's also the fact that GMK, I mean, even just as recent as a month ago, more delays. We got hit with sets that were supposed to deliver 3 months ago, now getting pushed back to October, when they were in production queue. Plastic, the world is on fire, and there's none of anything that can, there's not enough of anything ever. There's no microchips, there's no plastic, there's a shortage in metal. Basically, if it exists on a keyboard, there's a shortage for it.
I mean, or it's a 3080 PS5.
Yeah.
Furby, or
a car,
baby,
or a Ford car,
or lumber. Like we are in, apple cider. I see in chat. That's great. I didn't know apple cider. Probably maple syrup. I don't know. We are in circumstances where there's like strange shortage in weird things because one thing affected another. The butterfly effect happened in Indonesia, and now ABS plastic is, whatever.
Some guy tried to drift a boat, and then shut down international shipping for a week.
So yes, there's an ABS shortage. Who does that affect? GMK. That affects SP. GMK was already a ways out, and like Chewy talked about, it used to be SA, because SA was the community darling profile, and everybody wanted those because SA's really nice to type on. They got like rich lushy colors. They got that like center aligned legend. SA is nice. Maybe not as nice to type on, but visually,
they look beautiful.
Everybody shifted over to GMK, and and fast forward 4 years later, and here we are, right? I see that as a lot of issues. Like, yes, there's an ABS plastic shortage, but there's also us. We are not immune from shouldering the blame in the delays and the timeline issues.
Yeah.
Right? We used to have one key set every couple of months, that we went to like one a month on a select vendors, and now
the hobby had one set, not
yeah,
I will this is what's baffling, and sorry that I have to point this out to Novel Keys. GMK Novel Keys win. Thank you, Gondolindrium, for the raid. Hello. Gondolindrium, good friend of the channel and a fantastic PCB designer. So he GMK Oasis, which, Mike, if you're still listening, I'm sorry I'm bringing this up. GMK Oasis failed. GMK Oasis literally was a keycap set that failed. And it baffles me to this day that that a set like that failed, because now there are a bajillion sets that run every single month, and it doesn't
failed hard.
Yeah, it failed hard. Yeah, exactly. I felt bad. And it was Olivia almost failed. Just think where the hobby would be if Olivia had failed. Well, I'm sure Mike would have bought it out, because it did. It took 3 weeks for Olivia to hit MOQ. It's crazy to me that we're at a time where when one set ran, or maybe it was because 2 sets ran, or maybe because GMK Oasis came right after another set that everyone bought, that the hobby literally couldn't handle that. And now it's November 2019, I think Novel Keys ran 3 sets. I want to say, which is crazy.
We're not the only vendor doing that. You obviously, you have kind of most of them seem to have a premiere set, but there's other things that are running, and then there's other vendors. Somebody sent me a number once, I don't know, last week or something like that. That was 76 G. I'm probably paraphrasing, and it's probably not quite that much, but 76 GMK sets within the last 6 months or something like that.
Yeah.
No wonder they're delayed. And hopefully I'm not the only person that's thinking of the other side of the fence. But if you take somebody and you just keep stuffing food down their throat, they're gonna
gonna slow down.
I know that there's talk of new machines and things like that, but one new machine is not oh cool, everything's back down to 3 months, we're saved.
So Upas had a great response to this, because some people are saying, well, it's irresponsible for vendors to keep selling sets when they're not delivering the last 20 sets. Upas brought this up. I did a Mech Keys group by Discord interview. I can't remember the exact same name of it, but where he said, listen, if people are going to keep buying it, I'm not going to stop selling it. If people look at if people are going to continue, if you are mad that GMK is backed up and you're mad at a vendor for selling it, the people are buying it regardless. The people are going out and buying GMK sets, and why fault the vendor when when there are people lined up around the door, right?
As a vendor, that's what we do. We sell these, and yes, we make money, but we want to make things that the community enjoys. Half of the fun is that you have community members that design these things, and we're sort of the conduit in order for it to get produced.
Yeah.
Right. And part of that is honesty. We get a projected timeline from the manufacturer, and it's not like we're secretive about it, right? We expect this to be Q2 2022.
Yep.
And that is on the page when you buy the keycap, and it says along with it, this is subject to change. I don't mean to sound rude. If you cannot handle that, buy aftermarket and don't buy into it.
Yeah.
Right.
You're probably not, and honestly, you're probably not suited for this hobby. I want to be as
equivalent
inclusive,
of the
but
guy that does not wear a helmet and goes mountain bike riding, crashes, hits his head, and is like, "Why? What happened?" Well, you didn't wear a helmet and you went downhill
yeah,
mountain biking. Like
you
know,
have to you have to expect delays or wait, and then you're probably going to be paying more.
yeah,
Like, and that I feel like that gets lost so much in this hobby is you buy group buy to save money.
yeah,
Like that's literally it. That you're
we,
buying
we
it for
could
the
move to
guaranteed spot, and you're saving money.
we could talk about. Let's talk about it,
Yeah.
right? Like the only other alternative is that we function like a normal vendor in that we buy,
What?
get it, and then sell it to you.
Yep.
Right? The problem with that is that it takes a very long time. We are absorbing that timeline.
Yep.
And then you're buying it. What we're going to do is, because we have to guesstimate on quantity, we're probably going to have either too much or not enough. So the price point changes to account for these variables, right? Or it's a set that you're excited for IC, and then you just nothing happens with it, right?
Like could you imagine buying like 2,000 sets of Olivia, and then Olivia shows up, and then it sells out in a split second, and then and then you go, that's what you get for 2 years. People would lose their fucking minds. People would be rioting and death threats and all of that, which is bullshit. Don't send death threats to people because of a fucking keyboard.
It's plastic.
It's plastic. It's plastic. Like it's plastic, and it functions plastic, just like all the other sets.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to talk about it. I brought it up last year. I remember bringing it up last year. There was a set called SA Abyss.
Yep. I remember. I had it.
Some community members spun up a company and brought it in stock. They paid SP, granted timelines weren't what they were, but they paid for all of their sets, and then they hit Reddit and said, hey, look what we made. It's in stock. And the community lost their mind. They're like, what are you doing? Whoa, oh, it's $200 for a signature plastics SA set? That's too much. Why didn't you do a group buy? They didn't do anything else ever again.
Yeah, because they're like
essentially because
and they were mad because they were also mad because they were like, what, we didn't get to input on it, and it's like, so then don't buy it. If you don't like it, don't buy it.
Yeah, and we basically ran them out of town because they did the same. They did what we are all bitching about people not doing now.
Yep.
And it's like, cool. So at what point do you give a little, you know, rather than just this? I bought it. I want it when I want it. It should look exactly how I expect. It should be the price point, no delay. You know what I mean? Like, at what point do we look and analyze ourselves and say, am I being unreasonable? Are we as a community being unreasonable to the people that are trying to get things made? And I'm not trying to excuse the fact that GMK said like, oh, it'll be 6 more months. You know, I fully believe that GMK is doing everything that they can to get us things as quickly as possible with the quality that they're known for.
Yeah.
That's what businesses do. Nobody at GMK is sitting in their tower being like, oh, look at these fucking nerds. No, don't run that machine. No.
Yeah.
You know,
shut that machine down. We're going to piss these people off.
Right. Like, feelings are allowed to be felt. You are allowed to be frustrated because you had an expectation and it didn't get met. Yes, you have to wait 6 more months. Yes, Dracula's taking a while, right? But at the end of the day, like, everybody is trying to do the best that they can to get you a great product for what you paid as soon as possible, right? Within reason.
Yeah.
And all anybody can do is their best, and sometimes it's really hard to see hundreds of people, thousands of people, the entire community on Reddit, like, you're doing your best and they're doing everything that they can to boot heel every decision that you made.
Yeah. Without
actually having any skin in the game other than the keycap set that they themselves purchased. And I know that it's frustrating, and I know that it's hard to hear. Like, but nobody is meaning ill will towards anybody else, especially currently where there's so many factors causing delays that it's not any one thing. It's not one person saying like, I want to go another round on a color match, or it's not one manufacturer being like, look guys, we don't have plastic, speaking to that, a lot of like GMK and SP, they have, the reason that they have stock colors is those are the plastics that they have in-house.
Yep.
If they need to make a custom color, that doesn't mean that they just do a different mix of the plastics that they have. Sometimes they have to order new plastics to try and make that mix. If they can't get those new plastics, they don't make the mix until they can get those, which means that some sets that maybe have stock colors or an easier mix may jump ahead of that. Mm-hmm. There was some issues, and they've since fixed it, but 4 years ago or something like that, Signature Plastics ran into the same issue, and they did as good as they could with the plastics that they had, and then they shipped it, and that set was slightly different than other sets of its kind. And so the one, if anybody remembers, was SA Chocolatier. There were some caps in SA Chocolatier that had a slightly different brown in certain lights, and that's because they had to make it with a different plastic because they didn't have access to that plastic.
Yeah.
So we can bitch and moan all we want, but the only alternative is either make this and it'll be slightly different because we don't have the plastic, or wait, and be patient.
Patience.
And I guarantee you, waiting and being patient 9 times out of 10 is going to pay off versus trying to be the squeaky wheel and trying to get things early. Which I mean, I say that, and it's not like you're really going to be able to squeak and get things early, because the vast majority of people would rather wait for a good product. Mm-hmm. Anything that is rushed in this hobby has come out not that great.
Yep.
And that's talking current, that's talking 6 years ago, that's talking everywhere in between. Every time I've seen somebody try and rush or get in over their heads, nobody liked what came out of it when it was rushed versus the wait. You'll always forget about the wait once you have the thing in hand.
I've said that 100 times. I'm like, the second you get it in hand, the waiting no longer matters. I remember I waited. It's funny to me that this is a long time, but Modern Dolce ran in August of 2018, and I got it. And I got it in May of 2019, and that was a long wait. Mm-hmm. And color matching took a little bit, mainly because they sent them a metal red Pantone, and they had to like adjust and all of that. And that's still fucking hilarious to me, because they were like, oh, it's 5 months longer because it was supposed to ship out in January, which is crazy that a set sold in August was supposed to ship in January.
Right. Different times. Baby.
And I remember waiting 5 months, and then the second I got it, I was like, I don't care. I've got it. Now I have it, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
so
you've got it. It's fine. And then every round after that will be infinitely shorter.
Yep.
If it's a popular key set, it pretty much stands to reason that a round 2 will eventually run. Yep. I know that that's more waiting, but if it's something that you're not willing to like I said, if you're not willing to budge or accept anything less than perfection, just wait. It'll come around. It'll come around again. And who knows where the hobby moves? Maybe people start. It does seem like we're kind of at this diversion point where maybe things start going in stock. Yep. Speaking to our earlier conversation, we're starting to do some of that with the products at Novelkeys, because it's easier for us, and then we can put them on somewhat of a rotating stock. Yeah. The NK65 is a good example, where you can pretty much count on a couple drops a year of that happening, and then you can pick one up. Yeah. Does that mean that you can pick one up 100% of the time whenever you want it? No, because we can't. You can't make everyone happy. Just keep it rotating all of the time.
Yeah.
You buy a bundle, it goes into production, it drops, it sells, and it stays there until it sells out. And then whenever it sells out, we have a lag time between when it sells out and when we purchase the next bundle. And if you're in that lag time, try not to get upset. It's still coming.
Yeah. And not only that, it might come in a new and exciting color that you might not have an option.
You may have a better option for it.
Round twos usually are a little bit cooler. Looking at you, GMK Camping, I didn't like round two. I wasn't the biggest.
Thank you for not saying Metro.
Yeah, Metro. Geez, Metro was. No, I'm kidding. Metro's a great set. So we usually do 2 hours. If you'd like to continue going longer, then by all means, I'm fine. If you're going,
I'm good. We can keep going.
All right.
If people have questions.
So that's what I was going to ask, because I was going to say, do I ask the people asking questions? If you guys have questions,
no, please throw them at me.
At Nephlock, at Mex on Deck.
For, like education. I think most of the problems and frustrations in the hobby currently can be solved through like just candid education. Why is this way? What causes this to happen? Why are these different? You know, we talked a little bit earlier about just kind of skimming the surface on what certain colors are used for and why certain things are made the way they are and why it's unrealistic to expect, you know, like a dye sublimated desk mat that's a white fiber on a black rubber base to not be the same vibrance as injection molded plastic. You know, I am always happy to answer a question.
Yeah.
This may backfire. I am always happy to answer a question on Discord. Ping me. I can't promise that I will respond right away, but I usually try to respond. Yeah.
Sir Raul says, do you think GMK wait times would go down, or will it stay the same? There's all the talk about multiple machines. How many machines do they have? They bought more machines, but the machines aren't up and running, blah, blah, blah. Until the world recovers and there's no literal pandemic happening and the plastics are there, that's when stuff will start picking back up. The biggest issue is there's just not plastic. There's not enough. And it's not like, oh, we need, you know, they just get more plastic. It's like, well, they're fulfilling like 40 orders. Like that's, you know, 40 orders and not like 40 group buys. They're trying to do so much. And they just can't. And then on top of all of that, some people may not know, GMK is not a keycap manufacturing company. They are a company that makes plastics for like machines, like commercial use.
You can go to their website,
the Unikey,
which is Unikey, right? And you can look at it, and like we're not even on their main offerings. That doesn't mean that we're not a significant stream of revenue for them, but they do other stuff, you know. So it's kind of like your mom's cleaning the house and you want a sandwich, and you're going to say, "Hey, I want a sandwich." It's like, okay, give me a sec. I gotta clean that. No, I want a sandwich. You know, we're saying, no, I want 400,000 sandwiches. Please stop cleaning the house. You know, and only they can speak to exactly how everything's divvied up. But it is, I think, appropriate to understand and keep in your mind that we are not their only client.
Yeah.
And they're not sitting there waiting for us. That doesn't mean they don't care about us, but you know, they've got other priorities as well.
So we got Kaiju round 2 ?
TBD.
Maybe.
You know, I love Kaiju. Don't tell Metro, but I like Kaiju more than Metro.
It's, well, you made it sooner. I get it.
Kaiju's just a little, like I said, I don't know. It's more a set that I made for me. Not that I didn't make Metro for me, but tastes evolve. Like, I love Metro. It has a good place in my heart. I love Kaiju, and I like it a little bit more. And maybe some of that is like me feeling like I took, quote unquote, the 2 shittiest colors in keyboards and made something that I enjoy out of it. So will there be a round two? Yeah. Is it going to be anytime this year? Probably not. Um, similar thing with Metro. Like it took a while to get to round two, and that's not out of a disservice to the community, but it's more like I love this community and the designs that spring from this community. If every site was just round twos of the most popular thing, then there would be no room.
Mm-hmm.
If I ran Metro every year, that's time taken away from something new that could happen. Or somebody that comes up with a really clever idea that we're like, oh, sorry, like you have to wait until 2077 for a time slot to fit it in because we've got Metro round 12, Kaiju round 7. Pick your every other key set that we run multiple rounds of, and that's it is a fine line between that because the popular sets are popular for a reason, right? Yeah. And we're always getting new people into the hobby that are like, oh man, I want Olivia. I don't want to pay X for Olivia, or oh man, I want Oblivion. Oblivion's in round 3 right now. I want Oblivion, and almost nobody got it in R1. More people got it in R2, and every round there's a little bit different kitting or more options. So it's good for the people to be able to get those sets because they're classics for a reason. But I also think that you can't just rerun classics.
Yeah,
if
just you just take a classic and you make it metal and then you rerun it. Exactly.
Hey now.
Solved.
Hey now. Belts down here. No, talking about that for a sec. I know this is kind of chat question time, and nobody specifically asked about that.
We'll get to it. We'll get to chat. We'll get to chat.
Oh, okay. Alluvia. Alluvia. That's a fun set. Is it for everybody? No. It's $350. Like that. Immediately, that's not a key set for everybody. Is it something unique? Oh, definitely, right? It's kind of a unique experience, and part of that is what do we think people want? This hobby is so much, and I use the word hobby. Really, it's an industry at this point.
Yeah.
I try and not call it a hobby because it is an industry. Like there is a lot going on, and I think a hobby, just in terms of like nomenclature, kind of puts it down a level below what it actually is. But it's so much of it is about innovation. Mm-hmm. What new Switch can we make, or what new Franken Switch can I take 5 different things and swap leaves and try and make, or what new type of keycap profile. Keyboards are the prime example. In community keyboards are all over the board. Mm-hmm. People are making so many different cool things, and part of it's innovation, and we can't be afraid of that.
Yeah.
Does that mean that something's going to be a huge success? Don't know.
Doesn't have to. The first keyboard, well, not first, but one of the first keyboards to popularize gasket mounting, which is like the most popular thing on the planet for keyboards, was a group buy for like 6 people. It's small changes, and testing the waters change everything.
Are we expecting Alluvia to be like a 5,000 kit, like everybody's going to be on board? No. But I will also say that it sort of broke our expectations that we had for it.
Yeah.
And part of that is risk. Do we be conservative with our expectation? And I think that, especially when taking a risk like that, sure.
Yeah.
Because if we can be conservative and it hits that, great. That means that it met our expectations. We can do something like this again. The fact that it did more than that is great. It means that there is a place in the community for something like that. Is it going to take the place of GMK or other PVT keycaps or something like that? Probably not, but it's another avenue of the community for those that enjoy it.
Yeah. So next up from Nick, Nephlock, can you please talk as much as you can about how exactly GMK color matches to plastic samples?
Plastic samples. I am assuming that it's like a Pantone plastic color or like a RAL plastic color. I'm not sure what is meant by like the plastic sample, but let me give this a shot. It's not going to be very long because I don't work for GMK, and I don't fully know how they go through all of everything. I spoke about it a little bit earlier in that if you use a color from an actual meant for plastic color library, there are mix values that come with those libraries that help manufacturers create that color. You know, it's basically saying like Pantone has, I'm just going to pull it up because it's going to be way easier for me to do that. Because it's going to be similar, right? So here we are. We're going to take this like weird shitty pink. Here you go. So if we focus on that, you can see Pantone 496C, and then right there, popping in and out because it won't actually focus, is a mix code that uses, oh my God, like core, shit, oh my God, here we go. There we go, warm red, blue, trans something. And those are the mix codes to make this color. And those mix codes are essentially Pantone having stock inks. And so these places will buy, and I'm sorry I moved off of plastics to inks, but the process, I won't say is, but should be somewhat the same. You know, we always say like kindergarten, you take red paint, yellow paint, blue paint, and you can make every color. That it's essentially the same thing, but it's not entirely true. That's why when you buy like big photo printers, you get like cyan, light magenta. You get like a larger run. But those are stock inks that people buy from Pantone. And there is a significantly smaller amount of those than there are all of the other Pantone colors. And then you use those mix codes to make that correct color. It's the same thing with auto manufacturing for whoever was asking that question earlier. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Dotnik.
Dotnik asked about plastic, but the person that was talking about automotive earlier. But you take a subset. So say maybe there's 20 inks and you buy those from Pantone. Or you buy those from, you know, an auto paint manufacturer or something like that, and then you mix off of those, and so those are sort of your stable colors, and then you mix. And there are small variables in terms of like how old the paint you're mixing is and what the machine you're mixing with is, even the container application process and things like that. But again, squishing that margin for error, that is how you mix an ink or a plastic or something like that to make those specific colors. If that, Dotnik, if that answers your question, I hope it does. If not, reach out to me on Discord. I know we've chatted in the past. I'm happy to kind of go into it a little bit further.
Absolutely. So next up, we got, how's the Squid 40 looking? Honestly, I mean, again, I can kind of run it whenever I want. I'm not running it. That's just something Blind Assassin and I are going to run. We're going to make like 10 to 50, maybe 10 to 20, somewhere in that range of boards. And if it does really well and there's a huge demand for more, then I'll sell more. If not, that might be a one and done thing. So that's how and it will be the Baka 40 as the Squid name is going to be retired. Reverberate says, not a question, a suggestion, talking about manufacturing facts and reasons for delays. Here seems to be an echo chamber. This topic needs to be shared in a much more accessible medium. Maybe some content creators can make educational video regarding the issue. The issue is, if we made a video and then people don't watch it, then right back where we started. We don't typically, you can watch these videos. We don't typically make a lot of straight to YouTube videos. I know that's what maybe people are wanting. Mechs on Deck, we don't typically do. If you would like to watch it, we can, more than happy to talk. Volunteers tribute, yes, Stray Chroma, more than happy. But it's also hard. It's hard to sum it all up in a short, concise video. Because what I'm taking here is you want like the 5-minute, the fast facts of why, but there's so much that goes into it that you might leave a bunch out, and then you'll have people mad that you left a bunch out. So sorry.
I have tried a little bit. Like obviously, I have not written anything on Reddit in this level of detail, and I'm not a content creator. Um, I don't Twitch except for like once a year. I hop here, and it's the best time ever. Um, the hard thing for me thinking about if I were the one to go and do this, right? I think I froze. Oh, we're back.
We're good.
We're back.
Okay.
The Reddit is a volatile place where anybody that puts themselves out there is not really gonna have a good time, in my opinion.
We used to post our videos on Reddit. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah, and it's become kind of a weird place. In that I think it used to feel more like a community, and now it feels a little bit like a war zone, where you jump in and you put yourself out there and you kind of get like boot healed. He waits his cesspool. I'm not trying to bash the people that are on Reddit. It's its own community, and part of it is maybe it's evolved from what I'd say grew up, but from what I used to visit earlier in the community. Does that mean it's a bad place? No. I don't know that I necessarily prefer it. There's a lot going on where people post clones, and I have a lot of feelings on that. Obviously, like Metro was one of the big ones that got cloned fairly early on, and so I have some opinions there. But you get these kind of runs of, if you try and say or do anything that is somewhat genuine or instructional, there's a bandwagoning effect to squash you out of it.
Yep.
And so
and then people are so quick to wanting to correct you. So if you say anything that might not be 100% accurate, then you're immediately. This is why we've always talked about maybe let's post a lube video. Well, there's already some good lube videos. But the other thing is you get one of two people. Well, I guess three. You get the people that don't say anything other than, hey, thanks, this helped, right? Those are the people that it's made for. Most of those people aren't going to say anything, though. So in terms of content creation, you'll get the people that go, you're just doing it like this other person did it, so you just copy them. You just copied them. Okay, cool, bye. Don't need to deal with that anymore. Or they'll disagree with how you're doing it, and you'll get downvoted, and your video will get disliked, and people post it going, hey guys, go make fun of this person. And again, you're putting yourself out there, and people are going to criticize, and it's tough, and not only like we can come out and release content that's short, concise, and hey, this is what happened. And if it's not exactly what you're looking for, then you're not going to be able to. But anyway, what percentage do you think of the mech community makes up for all GMK orders? A very small one.
And like honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah.
We could ask Andy. Andy's not here.
Yeah. A very small one, because if you look at the orders in GMK and how many people are on Reddit, just on Reddit.
Yeah.
It's a very, very, very small. Let's see. What's that? How does it work running a set on drop while working for novel keys?
The trick question is that Kaiju ran well before I worked for novel keys. That doesn't mean that they haven't done like a little bit of a pre-order, but it's just a separate agreement. There is, I would say that there is a little bit of murk there, but that's not, like, again, I never expected to be where I am.
Yep.
Working for novel keys. Was that even in play when I ran Kaiju on drop? Not at all.
Yeah.
And this isn't the only situation in my life or in other people's lives where this happens, and there is there are some dividing lines there.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for the future? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
To answer that question.
There's a lot of questions with that, because that's like that, and then I see like GMK Mizu. There's like two huge problems with GMK Mizu, which is Rinsuya ran that through Omnitype, but as an exclusive position with Canon keys.
Yeah.
Also, Mizu is an extreme IP infringement, and GMK has raised their standards for IP infringement. So
yeah, I mean that's
GMK Mizu might never run. GMK Mizu might never run again,
and it may not, or it may, and it may run in a different format with, some different novelties. Some of those novelties were definitely IP skirting, and some of them were just kind of fine.
Some of them were just there, just floated.
Yeah,
it pains me to think about. Let's get some of these. Let's see who is okay. What's going to be the new big trend in keyboards? For instance, the knob gasket mount recently. Maybe it's the full size keyboard like we talked about.
It could be coming back around.
Maybe it's the magnet mounting style that's been very, very popular. Maybe it's aluminum keycaps. Who knows? It's hard. I can sit here and speculate. We can sit here and speculate all day long. At the end of the day, a lot of it
is speculation, and it seems to come down to: is there a common thread in the more pronounced community members that people pick up on?
Mm-hmm.
And does that make waves? You can speculate about certain things. Not much is really known. I know that magnets are a bitch to deal with internationally, and they're expensive.
Yeah.
So do I see it being magnet mounting? Personally, no, because there's a lot of logistical issues with that, and the only way something really takes off is if it's both cool and achievable.
Yeah.
If
cheap.
Well, not necessarily.
But this is this hobby. But at the
relatively cheap.
The one thing that I will tell people always is, in kind of in response to this, the new wave, the new trend, the best thing you can do is buy a keyboard that you will like, because it doesn't matter. A hot take, whatever. Gasket boards,
I've got two keyboards sitting in front of me. What are they? They're the Exent and the modern M0110. Neither of those boards are what I would call community darlings. Both of them were plagued. They're not hype boards. And they're both sitting in front of me, and that's what I've been using for a while.
Yeah.
Why? I love them.
Yep.
They sound great to me. I built them. They've got keycaps on them that I think are dope, and it's for me. Is it for you? I don't know. Is it for the majority of people? Seems like probably not. Yeah. But that's a good day for me, because that means that they're cheaper.
Yep. P. Wade asks, what's a set you wish you designed?
Oh, shit. Can I say dots? Is that just like jumping for it?
I did the math a long time ago, and Lang asked a question of how many keys with dots did GMK sell? How many keys? So I went through.
If we're taking it like the cat style MOQ, 20 million.
And I went through and I counted every dot of every kit, and then multiplied that by each number, and it was something like 1.4 million.
Oh man,
keycaps that have dots on it. It was something crazy.
Can you imagine like getting dots and just taking it out of the GMK tray and putting it into like a Ziploc baggie and then trying to put it on a board again is like mental punishment. Can you imagine the people that are assembling that at GMK? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Talk about like
there should be a $10 like buy this guy lunch.
empathy fee. I'm gonna start putting that onto product. Like, if this is a pain in the ass product, this is an empathy fee for all of the people that
You need to
we
everyone.
sorry, that we as a community are neglecting when we get like irate at GMK, and it's like the one employee that's like, oh, is this R1 or
Everyone,
R2 or I don't know, is this
everyone
gray
has
or
to buy
light,
this person
white?
lunch for the rest of their lives. Like, yeah, it's
No, there's a lot of sets that I wish that I designed, and it kind of migrates. Oblivion was one way back in the day that I'm like, oh, this was good. Again, I go for kind of potato personality sets that are like kind of ubiquitous on boards, like they all go together. One that I think is really fun, but like downplayed enough, and it's kind of hitting that like jam for me is Lavender. Obviously, it hasn't been made yet. Like, it's just a render. So again, I'm trying to manage my expectations on what that's going to turn out like. But like Lavender, Astral Light, some of these more muted keycap sets, I really like. Yeah.
I think I am not a keycap set designer. I think the two that just strike me as I honestly think Metropolis just seems like a fun set because there's so much you can do with, like, I really loved, it's one of the few sets where you see the 1.5 keys, the 1.5 length novel keys, where you get to have so much fun. And you did it with Noir, and basically any set where the novel keys aren't just 100% locked to where they're supposed to go, where you can start having fun with, your some shift keys, right? Where the shifts might be able to do something, or your tab and your backspace might be able to do any set. I also, the irony of it's literally the person that did this, that asked this question is P. Wade's, I need Windbreaker to be a thing like tomorrow. Like, I will dip into the savings for that set. Let's see. Chewy wants the group buy for stroking your beard at the next meetup, and you don't have to pay.
Oh shit! Free beard strokes.
Please don't come up and touch my beard. Just ask me first. And guys, remember, the cup. Don't try and put your fingers through. I think that's just about it. I don't see any pings.
Somebody did ask my opinion on the Clone Wars. I really don't. Right now is not the time for that. If these guys want to have me back on to address that,
we can
specifically.
We can bring that back on.
Or message me on Discord.
That's a whole episode.
Yeah,
that's a whole episode.
It's long-winded. I have some canned responses for it. It's maybe not what you would think, or maybe it is. I don't know what you think about it. But yeah, it's a bit, so we won't do that here.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask the last question, and this is what we've been ending with before we go. So you've been an amazing host. You host, right?
Thank you.
You've been
great to interview you.
Thank you. You've been an amazing guest. So please have Lang dress as a judge to moderate that conversation. 100% we can do that.
Are we doing like a
we can have
quad
like
stream?
Yeah, exactly. I'm down. So if you were going to give advice to someone who is new to designing keycaps and they want to either dip their toes or full cannonball into the water of keyset design, what is a piece of advice you would give them?
Shit. I guess I should. You've asked everybody else, and I should have prepared. I would say, again, education. Like, learn everything that you can. Learn about manufacturing process. Learn about how different colors are used. Understand that if you are going to make a set, don't half-ass it. Right? If you just like chuck up one little thing or like a basic idea on Geekhack or Reddit, you're either going to get ignored or you're going to get people that would rather run you out of the hobby than take you and try and educate you. Krellbit copy pasta on Geek Hack or what have you. You know, I see it all the time where somebody has, and sometimes they're decent ideas, but it's like really not fleshed out. You know, it's not that hard to put yourself out there a little bit and try and contact somebody that's done it before. I'm happy to make myself available as a resource if you have questions on how certain things are done or what's the best way to do it. I can't guarantee that I will have time for you. Someone else may as well. I'm happy to like maybe refer as well. But get some knowledge there, and also understand that there is going to be some cost up front. Renders are and can be expensive. If you are not willing to buy, that's probably what I would do, is buy some form of color matching something, right? Don't just play around with RGB values in Illustrator or somewhere, and similar thing, don't go to Pantone and look at their colors on their website. That doesn't really mean much.
Yeah.
That's a very basic approximation. That's like saying 2 + 2 might equal somewhere between 3 and 7, but at least you have a value.
Yeah.
It may be $100, it may be $200. Getting renders on top of that might be $300. You know, it is some investment in order to do it right. It will pay you back. I promise you that. Especially if the price to do it is really the price of a couple keycap sets. If you look at your collection and you're wanting to make a keycap set and you say, well, I could buy this or I could spend this money on this keycap set. Buy the keycap set, because it already means that you don't care as much about designing the set as you need to.
Yeah.
In order to spend a little bit up front in order to make sure that it actually makes it all the way. This is speaking as somebody that has done this. This is speaking as somebody who is now on the team for a major vendor, who is the person that will look at your pitches. If you send something to Mike and say, hey, will you run this? He is going to take that email or that chat message and he sends it to me. And he says, what do you think? If it's not fleshed out, there's other fish in the pond.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter if it's a good colorway, it's just not that fleshed out.
Yeah. Great advice.
So again, I'm if you have something and you're like, hey, I want to go into IC, run it by somebody. Yep. I'm happy to be one of those somebodies. I know that I lurk a lot. I have a lot of things that I have to do during the day, and so I'm not like the most Discordy person that's spending 3 hours like chilling in another Discord hamming it up. That doesn't mean that I'm not available, or if some people here may think that I'm standoffish. I promise I'm not.
It reminds me of the old saying that you only get one chance to make a good first impression.
100%.
And
100%.
when that first impression is your formal submission into an IC, and there are so many people that can help you. But
the other thing I'd say.
Yep.
Sorry, one more thing.
No, you're good. Hey.
Consider a PBT set or something.
There
like
it is.
That.
Yeah.
Like, don't just because and especially now it's a GMK laden hobby. We've got delays on GMK. They're perfectly fine PBT sets. I've got a couple in front of me that I designed. They're great.
You want a quick flash before we?
I can quick flash some leaks.
Some leaks.
Again, expectation management. I am showing you this on a keyboard at night in my office with warm lighting. It is coming through a really shitty Logitech webcam.
That's going through Discord. That's going through my computer all the way to Twitch.
So this is a set called Sand, and it is a PBT set that is going to be done in stock on Novel Keys TBD sometime in the future.
There it is. There's the clips and the screenshots. I should have like waved.
Yeah. Take that and then tell me that the colors didn't come out how you expected.
It's going to be terrible. It's good. People are going to be like so mad. They're like, this is terrible. So, well, thank you for the leaks. Thank you for coming on. It was a great conversation. If you missed the beginning, honestly, I suggest going back and watching from the beginning. So this Saturday, I will be rebuilding my Bakaneko 60. So be sure to check that out. Noon o'clock CT. And then next week, Eric will be back on Tuesday, and Wednesday we'll be having Mint Lodica coming on to wrap up Keyset Designer Month. Nephlock, thank you again for coming on. Always a pleasure having you on, and we'll get you in and we'll talk Clone Wars at a later time.
I'm always happy to.
So, but we are going to raid Dr. Huru. We've raided him a few times before. So, guys, again, thank you. Saturday noon, and check out Novel Keys. And you get to check out all of the work that Nephlock does. So thank you for coming on.
You may not know exactly what I was doing in there, but my work's somewhere in there.
It's in there. It's in there. So we're closing up shop, guys. Thank you very much for swinging by, and you have...
See ya, nerds.